Happy New Year, Year 11. Welcome back to school, albeit online for now. Hopefully, we'll see you next week. This is Miss O'Callaghan and Miss Peplow delivering lesson 1 to you, which is paper 1, question 5, everyone's favourite creative writing.
How marvellous. Happy New Year. So this question is 25% of your English language GCSE. It's an important one and it's a great one to be focusing on when we're at home and we have time to be creative and to think deeply about things and about how we are carefully crafting a piece of creative writing.
Now, in an exam, it's worth 40 marks. So you've got 24 marks for content and organisation, which is really your paragraphs and what you write about and the way you use your vocabulary and your ideas. And then 16 marks for technical accuracy, which is your sentence length and structure, your use of punctuation. And a small, very small part of that is about spelling, but it's not hugely significant. Just be careful with some of your words. In an exam, this should take you 45 minutes, so you have plenty of time to do a short plan and to write something that is well considered and probably 2 sides of A4, but 3 or 4 sides in an exam booklet, isn't it?
Absolutely is. You're talking about, I would say, 5 or 6 detailed and developed paragraphs.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk you through this process over the next few lessons. We're going to take this image, which you're always given in this type of question, and we're going to help you get to grips with this. Now, this is a very typical sort of question. This image is actually a really up-to-date one. It's taken of the Great Ouse, which is just up the road from us near Bedford and Milton Keynes, that burst its banks in the flash flooding quite recently. And the question that you can see in blue is a really typical Paper 1, question 5 style question. Write a description of a flooded place as suggested by this image.
So it's important that you do recognise the word suggested in the question, in the task, because it means you don't have to describe this picture as is. We're not literally describing those trees, that rainbow, this river. You can use it and you should use it to inspire your answer, but you can look beyond and you can consider where else we could go with this. For example, I get the impression there might be a football pitch to the right, which could be flooded, and you could describe that in the goalposts. There's that tower on the building in the background behind the trees. You could focus in on that. It could be perhaps some boats moored alongside that have been flooded and picked up by the broken bank. So you can be quite inventive, can't you, as long as you stick to the concept of flooding.
Yeah, as long as you're sticking within the boundaries of reality here, you can go to where you need to go. Now, there's a lot going on in this image, and sometimes a good strategy is to take the image apart a little bit and think about different concepts and ideas that you can use to help you get the detail that you need out of this. So today we're going to really focus on the use of light in this image, and we're going to take the picture apart into 2 different sections, really looking at the way light is being used here.
The technique I've recommended most of these tasks, there will always be some form of light, even if it's darkness. There'll be some starlight or moonlight or a lantern, something to focus in on in terms of the contrast between light and dark.
So let's take this section. Let's look up for a moment. Up at the sky, up at the rainbow, you can see the shadow of a second rainbow appearing here. And I want you just to warm up now for a moment. We're going to ask you to pause the video and really think of as many words that you would use at first glance to describe this image.
I think you're looking for about 20 words, and let's not say the sky is blue, because it really isn't. There are blue patches in that sky, but it's not a blue sky.
Yeah, there's all sorts going on here. So take a moment to really digest what's going on in this picture and as many words as you can think of. Pause the video. I would say 3 to 4 minutes. Off you go. Okay, so we're back. I imagine you have got some great words around your image, especially to do with colour and texture. But what you may not have thought about is how you can reference other parts of your learning in generating vocabulary. So you'll notice here that we've got some words linked to maths and science. So for example, arc and orb. What else is in here?
Spectrum and convex.
Cumulus clouds. And prism, absolutely. So we've got words that we perhaps wouldn't immediately go to but actually give us quite a lot of clarity in our writing.
What does anointed mean?
Anointed is, well, we know this, don't we?
Lord's anointed temple.
Lord's anointed temple.
Macbeth.
Macbeth. So it's when one has been anointed by God,
A blessing.
like a
Chosen.
blessing, chosen one. Absolutely.
You could have some sort of religion.
Yeah, radiating from the heavens above. Absolutely. And I love some of the words to do with colour here. So things like cornflower blue, granite is my favourite, I think. The granite colour
And indigo
sky.
is that very dark purple that you can see.
Yeah, and we've got that lovely blended. We've got blended in here as well,
We've
haven't
got
we?
a lovely streak of emerald. Beautiful streak of emerald across the sky.
Really beautiful, with a lovely contrast to sort of those stripped back trees.
What I like to do with trees is talk about silhouettes and limbs and skeletal branches because they're in the winter time they very much appear that way, don't they?
Yeah, and a gorgeous contrast with the sky behind it there. Okay,
I'm going to challenge you, Miss Peplow.
go on then.
What I have done is I've picked 4 words from our bank,
Okay.
which I shall show you in a moment. And I would like you to use those 4 words to come up with 2 sentences to describe the light in this scene.
Okay. Right, what are the words?
I'll show you. So I've chosen spectrum, scattered, granite and indigo. What are your first thoughts?
I'm definitely going to use one of them to open my sentence, because I want to steer clear of the old the and I trap. And I'd really like to play around with colour. I might try and get some more colour in there as well, because
Okay.
we've got 2 colours in there and we've got the spectrum as well. Okay, right. I would like everyone to have a go at this. So pause your video again, please, and I want you to come up with a sentence or 2 sentences using these 4 words. Off you go. Okay, so we're back and I'm going to show you what we've done.
Yeah.
Shall I read it?
Yeah, read it please.
Scattered flecks of light radiated from the spectrum of colour. A rainbow of promise in a sky of indigo, granite and grey.
Quite a long sentence.
It is, it's quite long, but we are English teachers.
Yeah. But what I would be inclined to do after this would be to deliberately choose to write a couple of short, simple sentences.
Yeah, like 3-word type sentences.
Yeah. I like it.
What would you follow it with?
So we've got scattered flecks of light in the sky of indigo, granite and grey. All was still, all was calm, everything stopped.
Yeah, that works well.
The floods had finished, the storm had ended, something like that.
Yeah, the storm had passed. Yeah, that works well.
So I really like that you started with scattered. And a lot of students say to me, how do I not start with the? Well, you need to use adjectives, adverbs, slowly, still, again, colours like pink, sizes and shapes, hexagonal, something. Abstract nouns, you can start with time, you can start with fear, love, hope.
Yeah, power.
So there are lots of ways that you can change your sentence openers. I love granite and grey because it has, I'm not a big fan of alliteration because I think sometimes it's forced and it just isn't very nice because people feel they have to put alliteration in and they make something up. But granite and grey is got that lovely sound to it, a lovely solidity.
I want to say onomatopoeic, but that's not quite right. It kind of reflects the texture and the colour of the sky, doesn't it? The granite and the grey and the indigo. You kind of get that sense of the blending there. And I like the contrast of that with the metaphor rainbow of promise.
It's a good metaphor. And I really like, and can you explain how and why you've used that dash?
So I tend to use a dash when I want to expand and develop a sentence and accentuate meaning. And here I think I've built in a bit of a change of tone, slowed it down, gives that moment to digest the meaning
and to really consider those colours.
Yeah,
good.
Okay, thanks.
It's okay.
Right, so we've got a nice focus on the beginning. What we'd like you to do now, folks, is we want you to have another look at this. And I want you to replicate the challenge that we've just done. So you can use words from here, all the ones that you develop yourself at the beginning, choose 4 and try to write yourself another sentence. Don't underestimate the power of this exercise because it forces you to really think so carefully about how you're structuring your sentence and how you're really creating images. So I would suggest spending a good 5 minutes on this now. Choose 4 words and try and write a really great sentence.
You might find it becomes 2 sentences, but as long as you've used those words and you've tried to vary your sentence order and the content, you'll have variety and it will be powerful.
So pause the video now and have a go. Okay, so we're back. I would suggest that you are charitable with your sentences and perhaps type some of those on the stream.
It would
so
be
the
lovely
rest
to see and read some of those.
It would be great, and I think the whole class can benefit from that as well. So share some of your ideas. It'll be there for you guys when you come to develop this into a more extended piece of writing. So please feel free to put them onto the class stream, the class chat. Okay, so we've looked above, we've looked at the beautiful radiating light above. And now we're going to turn our attention to a less obvious use of light in this image, but nonetheless, a very powerful
It's
image.
the same scene from a different perspective.
Yeah, it's the same picture, but we're looking from a different part of it. Again, this is a really good thing. You can actually do this in an exam, draw boxes around the different parts of the image that you'd like to focus on. But here we've got the river that's burst its banks, okay? We've chosen some vocabulary here that we think really helps to capture the texture and the nature of the light in this image. So we've got some great use of colour. We've got coffee and caramel, bronze, that really give that sense of the richness, I think, of the colour in here. Very different sorts of colours to the light and semi-transparent, translucent colour of the rainbow.
You see, I like particularly the word emulsion here, which the definition of emulsion is 2 liquids that will not mix well together. For example, oil and water, or when you make a vinaigrette, like oil and vinegar. And if you've ever opened a tin of paint, you'll find there's a sort of a layer of oil at the top, and you need to mix it in with the paint, and it separates quite easily. So emulsion, I felt that there was emulsion here of the kind of the water and the mud, but also the water and the light. And I know that emulsion is traditionally, in terms of definition, is 2 liquids, but because you can use metaphors in English, we could talk about emulsions of light and dark, the mixture of things that don't quite sit well together. I love the glossiness and the polished finish of this river with the light upon it, which makes it slick, like an oil slick.
Yeah, it's quality, hasn't it? Almost like something is separated above to the top. It's kind of polished, and you kind of get the sense of that, those little bits, like you sometimes get a rainbow in the top of oil.
Oh, I know.
You kind of get the sense of here. It's a more muted rainbow. Those different
you often
colours.
see that if there's been a petrol spillage.
Yeah.
And you see it on the surface of the road.
On puddles.
You chose silt. What's that?
So silt is like the mud and the sand and the muck at the bottom of a river. And you get a sense of the ferocity of the storm that has come before here, because it's churned up the banks of the river and the floor of the river. And you also get the sense that the water is filled, it's blurred, it's filled with sand and silk and murky.
Hell is murky.
Macbeth quote. Yeah, so you've got the murkiness, the silkiness, and this thickness. It's very different textures from the sky, isn't it?
The sky felt very clear and fresh, glittering.
Light.
This feels sort of heavier and more shadowed.
Okay, so I'd like to do the same thing here. I'm going to ask people to do this as well.
Okay.
We're going to choose 4 words. I'm going to let you have emulsion because you like that.
I do.
I'd like murky because hell is murky. I think I'll have mirror in there as well. And one more.
I like shadow. I like to use shadow. It seems to be a simple word, but so much you can do with shadow.
Always works well. Okay, so you can have those 4. Emulsion, shadow, murky, and mirror. So if you pause the video now, have a go at writing a sentence using those 4 words. Okay. And we're back. What have we got?
So I had a go at this. I feel that I've written another long sentence, but I think it warrants that. I mean, we've got a couple of sentences here. The first one isn't so long, but again, I would be inclined to, after this, think about my sentence length and structure. Yeah. So I started off with that, actually. That was my instinctive response. And I thought, no, that's what we're trying to avoid. So we're talking about floods. The task is about floods, and often on the news, they're described as flash floods. They come quickly, they're unexpected, and then you're left with this sort of devastation. And it's a nice use of alliteration. So I've written, flash floods consume the fields, turning fertile ground to waterlogged bogland. Now, I tried hard here to stay in present tense. We wrote the last 2 sentences or 3 in in past tense, and you wouldn't move between the two, but present tense has something very powerful about it, something very, well, obviously it's present. So it feels as if we're there with it happening now. Now, waterlogged bogland is difficult for me to say because of those sounds. It really feels like it's the sounds have captured the nature of the land here.
Yeah, and what it's like to walk through that land.
Squelchy and boggy.
And I like the fricative sounds you've got running through it as well. And it's a real contrast to some of that imagery that we used in the first paragraph.
We've got flash floods, logged bog, light liquid, murky mirror. So there's lots of work with sounds here. And then a preposition, beneath the bejeweled and glittering sky. What does bejeweled mean? Precious.
Yeah, precious.
Beneath the bejeweled and glittering sky, an emulsion of light and liquid settles on the slick surface. That's sibilance as well. We can feel the slippery slidiness of it, of the river. And again, another dash, because we're a big fan of the dash.
Yeah.
A murky mirror of shadows. In this situation, that dash for me feels like a conclusion.
I agree.
All these things together give us a murky mirror of shadows.
Yeah. It kind of, isn't it? I like how we use sounds and images to create a real sense of a real sensory sense of this river that's burst its banks, and then that final metaphor there at the end, I think, is really powerful to consolidate that.
Yeah.
Okay. So, look, we've shown you how you can play around with word banks to develop really carefully crafted sentences. And I hope that we've inspired you a little bit here, because what we'd like you to do next is really bring that together. So, we want you to write a detailed paragraph. This will probably be your first paragraph in your full response. So we're looking for 250 to 300 words. For most of you with your handwriting, we're talking a good half a page, I would suggest here. You're very welcome to steal each other's sentences from the stream, to use our example modelled sentences as well. But we really want you to think carefully about how you're crafting this first paragraph. And we're going to bring in some parameters, some rules here for you. You can only use the a maximum of 4 times. And that's because, as we know, if you start too many sentences with the, it leads you down this quite cliched, ploddy path.
It's very repetitive.
Yeah, and we need to avoid that. Opening, like we said earlier, opening with an adjective or a verb or a preposition, beneath, beyond, adds that scale and perspective, and it helps to position your reader within that image and to really understand what it feels like to be there, to be part of it. Okay, gives it far more precision.
We talked about a dash a couple of times, so it's not a hyphen. A hyphen is within a word, within 2 words, like we saw it in waterlogged. A dash will add extra information, create a pause, develop. You can look back on the examples and see how we used our dashes. And then we've got a simile, which is to use like or as.
Yeah. And we were saying before, weren't we? We quite like a simile that starts with the like. So you're not necessarily putting the like in the middle. You're using it to start with. So
like an oil slick, the surface of the water was.
Yeah. Like. Yeah. Okay. We want you to make sure that you're consciously using at least 3 different sentence openers to force you to think about how you're structuring your sentences. That's the purpose of using different openers. It forces you to structure your sentences differently, and that's really important if you're going to try and get that meaning through your sentence structures as well as your vocabulary.
And you can use time there, within hours.
Yeah.
After days.
Yeah.
As night settled.
Yeah. Use those adverbial phrases. Yeah, lovely. And we'd like you to consciously finish with a 3-word sentence. Again, throughout your piece, you should be thinking about your sentence lengths, the impact of your sentences. Don't overuse long, complex sentences, and equally don't overuse short, simple or minor sentences. Make sure you've got good variety, because it adds that texture and power to your writing. So we'd like you to do that today. This is a draft paragraph. You're very welcome to submit this paragraph to your teachers for them to have a look and give you some feedback on. But bear in mind, over the next 4 lessons, we're building this up to a big piece which will be submitted and marked. We're very sorry we can't see you face to face. We hope that it's not for long and that we'll see you back in the classroom next week. But good luck with this first paragraph.
And in the meantime, enjoy it. You've got creativity here that you can use, and you can excel because you've got plenty of time and you've got space to think and consider and edit and reconsider, and you can really practice those skills that you can repeat in an exam situation.
And don't forget that you can stop and start this video again. You can rewatch parts of it. You can pause it on the screen grab bits of it. It's there for you to use, and will be up forever on the stream. Okay.
We'll see you again soon.
See you soon.